Hello and welcome to our short interview series that we're doing about housing and community development and other issues that intersect with those issues. My name is Mike Loftin. I'm the CEO of Homewise in New Mexico and a non-resident fellow at the Urban Institute. Today we have John O'Callahan, who's the president and CEO of the Atlanta Neighborhood Development Partnership. It's a great organization that's doing a lot to increase affordable housing and homeownership opportunities throughout Metro Atlanta. So is very focused on addressing racial equity issues and especially the wealth disparity. So, John, let's welcome, and I'm excited about having a conversation with you.
Look forward to it, Mike.
Good. So, maybe you could just give everybody a little bit of background on what you do and how you and what your focus is, and your strategic approach to achieving your objectives.
Yeah. Well, ANDP is a 30-year-old not-for-profit that was actually formed to address systemic racism and the housing delivery system. 30 years ago, they probably used slightly different words. We lend, we're CDFI. We actually work on apartments through the low-income housing tax credit program. We provide down payment assistance. But I think the work that we do that is most needed in our community is we build desperately needed homes for buyers that have been left out of the system and create affordable home ownership. Over 3/4 of our buyers are African-American families. About half of them are below 80% of very immediate income. And we're just very proud of the work that we do in serving those families and others through our rental and our lending and our community engagement.
Well, I know that you did, especially after the foreclosure crisis, when there's lots of foreclosed abandoned properties in Atlanta, you kind of led a very aggressive charge to acquire those buildings, rehab them, and get them into owner occupants. I assume you're still doing some of that work. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm really thankful for the NSP program. Actually, we had started that work with 6 homes prior to any federal response, and we're able to learn. And through doing the neighborhood stabilization program, we worked in about 6 local government areas, did probably 400 or 500 homes over a multi-year time period. But what we learned was relationships with the local builders and contractors. Many of those are minority builders and contractors who do not have access to capital because it was all cut off in the foreclosure crisis. It's not back. Right. So we've developed a model where we can, as a not-for-profit, raise capital, not get construction loans, but raise internal capital, hire them in a business relationship where we're both vested in making the home affordable, but both vested in making sure that the capital is returned so that we can do the next home. And today, a not-for-profit shouldn't be the largest builder of homes at $250,000 or less and the core counties of Metro Atlanta, but we are because the market is not serving, and we've really created, I think, a dynamic system. We're serving about 90 families a year, but our aspirations are to grow that and to also help some of these largely Black-owned building companies get the capital to do some on their own, aside from what they do with us, and just expand the amount of product.
I love this strategy because it hits on a bunch of important things, right? You're helping people first-time homebuyers get into a home, build wealth, have stability in their housing. You're helping neighborhoods get better by fixing up vacant properties, and you're providing opportunities for contractors, minority contractors, small contractors to build a business. What's not to like? And I think your comment about you shouldn't be the biggest builder of product, of homes below 250,000. I think this is a reality we have to accept more, is that there's going to be nonprofit developers and community development financial institutions and that are going to have to step up their game and enter these niches and get more done. If we wait for the usual suspects to do it, I think we could be waiting a very long time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. The low-income housing tax credit program helped scale multifamily production. But I think it was not-for-profits early on that proved the way and proved the model. And we believe adding scale and doing it in a way that gets capacity from others is important. We all know that home ownership leads to stability. We all know that if you've got a mortgage, your rent doesn't go up. But we studied the impact of our work during the foreclosure crisis. When there were some good homes, we kept neighborhood values from falling for the other homeowners. We measured that. Actually, our investment in DeKalb County was leveraged 40 to 1 in lifting values. Wow. And since prices are going up, we've measured what's going on for our homeowners. So, you need to own a home maybe 5 years before you see all the appreciation and the benefit. Our longest term homeowners, not quite 10 years since we did this program. We've got many over 5. We measured their success recently. The average homeowner, remember, these are largely lower income, largely families of color that have been left out, and now they're in $135,000 of wealth that they've created between 5 and 9 years on average from paying down their mortgage, from appreciation. Sometimes that second mortgage may go away and they benefit from that. And that's powerful. It's affordable housing. I use your term. It's affordable housing that's keeping people in the same school district that's building wealth. We're just feel blessed to be a part of those outcomes.
Right. No, and see, that story is just a terrific story because it's like so many social programs are focused on helping people survive poverty or, deal with just being financially insecure. And kind of there's the safety net language even kind of, implies that, whereas the goal shouldn't be helping people survive bad economic conditions. It should be to escape them and prosper and have wealth and be in a position that when their kids want to buy a home, that family's in a position to help them. I mean, it's just a terrific thing. And it's great that you're tracking that data.
Well, thanks. I feel it personally. My dad fought at the end of World War II. He got to go to Georgia Tech for free. He got out. He essentially got a home with nothing down at a low 1-2% interest rate. And values are going up in Atlanta. And he traded up and he paid for me. I worked some, but he helped pay for me to go to Georgia Tech and help me when I got my first home. And it's like, the difference, because we cut out a big piece of the country. You couldn't buy a home and use those programs if it was in a neighborhood that there was even one buyer of color. And so I've been blessed through that generational home ownership. We need to get others in and catch up.
Yeah. No, and that's, it's true for my family too, which, I mentioned it in this Urban Institute article I wrote about how housing or home ownership is affordable housing. My mom retired comfortably because she owned a home, eventually became free and clear. That's when she started saving for retirement. It was her ace in the hole. More important than, other social programs are really important. But probably that was the biggest driver of her financial security. It's a huge deal. And the fact that, if you look at American history and how so many people of color got locked out of obtaining that opportunity, we have work to do to catch up. And so it's,
my dad started his business out of the house, right? It's the impact's huge.
Yeah, no, it's real. Well, tell us about in 2020, you launched the Closing the Gap initiative. That's a lot around housing supply and preservation of affordable housing. Tell us about
that. There's a perception that not-for-profits are doing a few homes here and a few homes there. We wanted to set an example and stretch ourselves. We had been doubling our outputs about every 4 or 5 years, and sort of looked, well, let's double again. The larger you get, the harder it is to double. What would it take? And so we announced in 2020, November 2020, that we're going to develop or preserve 2,000 homes and apartments. 750 of those are going to be single family homes. 1,250 are going to be low income housing tax credit and other, multifamily rental. We think the work we're doing in home ownership and single family is the most impactful. And, you have to find the subsidy, right? So finding the subsidy for the home ownership is we need some local philanthropy. We need more of the local home dollars. And in the city, we've got a new mayor. City's been doing a great job of getting new sources. There's a housing bond. We need to get more of that into home ownership.
Right.
But we found that we can leverage with a charitable grant, leverage that 25-1, because we can match it with a little governmental. We can match it with programs from the Treasury Department, from Capital Magnet Fund or New Markets Tax Credit. And so we're trying to raise $18 million charitably for a development project that is $440 million. And again, we've had good success because people understand that leverage. And this is the first big capital campaign we've done in my 15 years at ANDP. Have to spend a lot of time telling the story, but we're really pleased where we are. We are over the halfway point with a little bit, over a year behind us. So our community is responding. There's more work to be done. We have about just under 700 of the homes, at least finance. Some of them are built, some of them are in pipeline, and we're on track to meet that 2,000, but it's stretching us.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so it's interesting that your mention of philanthropy's involvement in this is my experience with philanthropy is they've largely ignored homeownership. Some large foundations have invested in rental housing, and they kind of define affordable housing, equate affordable housing and rental as if they're saying the same thing, right? Looking forward, what do you think? Is that landscape changing? Are you seeing more interest in home ownership and in philanthropy?
Yeah, we are, and it's been local philanthropy has invested. They're really interested in our land acquisition, so we can buy the subdivision or buy the lot for multifamily that we can leverage. We've had multiple banks who have funded because of home ownership or because of the larger plan. And so we're about to announce some of those publicly, but we've seen a receptiveness. The country's going through a lot of change. It shouldn't have taken what we saw in the criminal justice system to wake people up that this country has generational, century-long systems of systemic racism. Clearly in the criminal justice system it exists. I'll say in the housing delivery system, particularly the home ownership, it exists equally or more. And I think what the country is going through is waking people up. Okay, we need to approach this in new ways and fresh eyes. And I believe that some of the success we've had is because funders who do want to do good in the community are seeing this as a way to leverage, create affordable housing, build wealth, and address systemic racism where it has been most impactful in our society.
Yeah. Now that's very encouraging because the thing about this is it definitely needs resources, but helping people get into a home in a good way where they're going to be successful over time is not rocket science. It's blocking and tackling. We have the tools to do this. It's just it's an under-resourced strategy.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, this is great to see you. Great talking to you. I always enjoy these conversations, and we'll do it again.
Thanks so much for doing this, Mike. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, John. Take care.